Hey everyone, I want to talk to you about your final paper for the semester. For undergraduates, that is a strategic plan, and for graduate students, that is a research proposal. So let me talk with you briefly about each of them, and hopefully this will help answer any questions you might have. Undergraduates are going to focus on a strategic plan. And so what the strategic plan is effectively a document that's written for an internal audience. And that audience would theoretically, in this situation, consist of members of a political campaign. What you're doing is writing directives or suggestions for actions that members of that campaign should take to advance any goals of a specific political figure. So, for example, you could choose one of the numerous presidential candidates who's running for office in 2020. You could choose someone who is kind of the figurehead of a different political movement. You might choose someone who is not a person, but a group or an organization. Anyway, whichever way you go, you need to identify who that group or person is. Make it very clear who you're targeting with your strategic plan. Then what you need to do next is identify what is the goal or goals of that particular movement, campaign, activist organization, whatever. Identify a few goals. I would suggest, somewhere in the 1 to 3 range in terms of goals that you are selecting and highlighting. And then what you need to do is put forward or suggest some specific strategies for what that campaign and members of that campaign could be doing to help achieve those goals. These should be focused on some of the techniques and theories that you've learned this semester, digital media strategies. It can be traditional media as well, coupled in there. But what you need to do with your strategic plan is make sure that you are rooting that in the theory that we've talked about this semester. So, for example, you might say, politician X needs to reach out to supporters through Facebook more, through the Facebook group, because doing so helps heighten, the sense of connection. We understand this to be true through a uses and gratifications theory perspective, blah, 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 right? Be as specific as possible with the strategies that you're suggesting, and make sure that you are providing timelines for implementation, 1 month, 6 months, a year, so on and so forth. I'm looking for this to be well written. I would like the same standard formatting for any APA paper, and this needs to be written as an essay, even though it is a strategic plan, and typically that would have, probably a different structure to it. I do want this written in an essay format with an introduction, body, and conclusion, a reference sheet, and I'm looking for a product that is 4 to 5 pages in length. Make sure that you're also providing multiple sources, that you're referencing things that we've learned in the class so far this semester, and that should make it for an excellent paper. All right, moving on to graduate students. Graduate students, you're going to do something a little bit different. You are going to actually propose a research project that you unfortunately don't have time to do this semester, but could potentially do in the future. So this research proposal, what you want to do is pick a topic that is contemporary, that folds in political media that folds in media studies and political communication. So that topic can be any number of things. It can relate to something that's directly in government or policy work. It could be something that's more about social consciousness raising, awareness of a broader topic. But make sure that you have something that's clearly in the crosshairs of that media and politics. And if you have questions about what your topic is, feel free to ask me, and I can kind of advise you and make sure that what you are wanting to study does fall within the scopes of this assignment. So once you've chosen a topic, you want to have a theoretical framework for that. So that means you've got to choose a theory or two that are helping center your research project, that help drive that project forward. So the idea here is, like, my understanding of this topic is I understand it through the lens of framing or agenda setting, or I want to look at audience reactions through the lens of, an audience studies perspective. Whatever it is, you need to make sure that you have a clear theoretical discussion in the paper. So that is another pretty important part of this piece. In terms of the structure of the paper, you'll start, this is a traditional structure. You have an introduction of your topic, have a literature review where you summarize any research that exists on the topic, and then of course, give us a summary of that theory as well. And then you're going to propose how you would study that. This is where you talk about the method. Now, the benefit of having to read so many articles like you have had to read this semester is that you've got a good idea of what a method section looks like. You should have lots of examples of how that method section is written out. You're going to do the same thing, of course. Instead of saying I did it past tense this way, you're going to say I would do it future tense, right? So you're going to give me, some pretty detailed discussion or description of how you would actually go about completing this research project, including any research questions or hypotheses. Those need to be specifically listed, separate from a paragraph. Usually they're indented in. If you have questions about that, you can go to any kind of APA style guide to give you help with that. This also needs to be based in the research of the class. I want lots of references, and especially for that literature review section where you're talking about the topic and what's been done on it. Don't just give me 2 sources and that's it, but you need to make sure that you have a good, healthy literature review there. In total length, I would like this to be 6 to 7 pages. Same kind of formatting, Times New Roman font, standard, 12.1-inch margins, all that good stuff. So the strategic plan and the research proposal are each worth 100 points, and they're both due by 11:59 p.m. on Friday, June 28th, the last day of the class. Even though they're not due until the very end, I would strongly suggest not putting them off until the last day. I'm going to be hopefully sending out some reminders to Let me rephrase that. I'm going to be sending out some reminders that hopefully encourage you to work on it further in advance than the last day. If you've got questions or concerns or anything that you want to ask me, including just like, I want to bounce some ideas off, please let me know. This is definitely a passion topic for me. I really love talking about media and politics. And so I'm always happy to get to, bounce ideas around with students. All right, let me know if you have any questions.